Economic heart of Canada, but the soul of the city lives in its ethnic neighborhoods. At the Royal Ontario Museum, there's a world of another kind.
The ROM has got a lot of variety in its exhibits because it's got both mandates of natural history, that's nature, and of human civilization. So we're very lucky to be able to say, on one hand, you can go into one of North America's great collection of Chinese artifacts, to something like the dinosaurs, where we have one of North America's and the world's great collection of dinosaur skeletons.
For a look into yesteryear and its grander lifestyle, Casa Loma celebrates history and romance.
The architecture of Casa Loma itself is always interesting to me because many people look at the style and think this was the stuff of Sir Henry Pellet's overactive imagination, and I would say that it isn't. A Gothic revival is a blend of Gothic and Romanesque styles, and that's exactly what we have at Casa Loma.
Natural history comes alive at the Toronto Zoo. Orphaned polar bear cubs, western lowland gorillas, and Siberian tigers are all lovingly cared for in a setting designed to be as much like their own natural habitats as possible. But Toronto has a secret: its green spaces. Just steps away from traffic are inviting pathways for cyclists and pedestrians to explore. This trail, the Belt Line, was once a railway line built by John Moore.
And we have commuter trains all over Canada now that run intercity. But this was an early version of that. And by early, I mean early, 1892. So we're talking more than a century ago. Now, you might be able to hear in the background the sound of the subway, which is kind of interesting because the subway goes under where Mr. Moore's Beltline Railway went over. You still see the bridge on Yonge Street.
Ontario is a vast province. Its population sprawls along the southern borders in modern towns and cities of steel, glass, and concrete that pierce the skyline, framing the northern fringes of the Great Lakes. Yet from here to the shores of Hudson Bay, Ontario remains a wilderness with 90% of its area densely forested. There are many ways to explore this wilderness. The Ontario Northland train from Toronto takes you to outlying Aboriginal communities, from where you can fly even further north on fishing and wildlife expeditions. From the end of the line at Moosonee, you can cross the river to Moose Factory, which began life as a trading center for the Hudson's Bay Company. The factor lived here and paid the trappers for their furs based on the size and the thickness of the pelts.
Well, the area was inhabited first by the Crees, and it was established as a fur trading post by the Hudson's Bay Company in 1673. Each dwelling represents the season in which we would be out on the land hunting, fishing, trapping.
Well, you can say we've been here for thousands of years, but the community didn't exist till an early 1900 because of that's when the missionary and Hudson Bay Post moved in. Before that, people used to just scatter all over the country.
Strangers don't often pass this way, so it's not unusual when locals like Susan and her father, Louis Bird, welcome you into their homes and their teepees. Further northwest on the shores of Hudson Bay, you reach Polar Bear Provincial Park.
Well, it has three environments in one. We have the bay, we have the tundra, and the tree line fluctuates from 5 to 15 miles. There are all kinds of species of animals, so it's very unique. You can have black bear and polar bear, caribou and moose, or inland birds and shorebirds and tundra birds. Looking straight at it.
The mouth of the Sutton River is a home for polar bears and their cubs, while offshore is the territory of a pod of beluga whales. A bird's eye view of Ontario shows off a wealth of fresh water in more than 100,000 lakes. No wonder Ontarians have devised so many ways to enjoy this natural legacy.
Georgian Bay is really the sixth Great Lake. I mean, it used to be called Lake Manitou, and it's bigger than Lake Erie in terms of square miles and square kilometers, and obviously in terms of water depths, first of all. Secondly, after Superior, it has the best scenery of any of the Great Lakes. The shoreline on the east shore is the Canadian Shield, and on the west side is the Niagara Escarpment. And of course, as it blends into the North Channel, and we get to see Manitoulin Island, we like to tell everybody that's as good as the Greek islands, as good as the Caribbean for sailing and for cruising, because you see something different every day. Plus, we have some ports that are so small, nobody else could go there.
The smaller ship is able to navigate these narrow channels.
Getting a good shot?
Smaller still, a kayak can travel some 30 kilometers through the Fox Islands along the Georgian Bay shoreline.
It becomes very, very rugged. There's not a lot of industrialization. It's a great opportunity to paddle. And also with all the shoals and the islands, you can get away from the big power boats and the sailboats. And it's a haven for sea kayakers.
Georgian Bay has been immortalized by the group of 7 painters who captured on canvas the windswept pines, the pink granite rocks, and the ever-changing waters of the bay. To say nothing of the sunsets. Well over a century ago, when the trains and roads stopped in Gravenhurst, the only way north was by steamer to the north end of Lake Rosso, and then a stagecoach over to Georgian Bay. Today, the Seguin is the last remaining ship of a fleet of 11 that once plied the Muskoka Lakes. Ontario's waterways, like the Trent-Severn system, were the original travel routes. Long before the highways and the railroads, there were canals. By the 19th century, they were being carved through the wilderness, linking Ontario's maze of rivers.
When you're in Ontario, there's 100,000 lakes, and the only way to really experience Ontario is to be on the water, and a houseboat allows you to do that at your own pace. You don't need to make any plans. Just stay where you want, move at the pace you wish.
Autumn is one of the best times of the year to cruise the lakes and savor the beauty and the wildlife of provincial parks like Algonquin. You can get even closer to those that call the woods home at Aspen Valley Wildlife Sanctuary. Here, sick and injured animals recover in shelters that are as close to their natural habitat as possible. Tony Grant gets them back on their feet so they can be returned to the wild.
We put back about 90% of what comes in, and this year we were almost to 1,000 animals.
Even wolves that have been illegally crossbred with dogs have found sanctuary at Aspen Valley. Along Ontario's southernmost border on the shores of Lake Erie are two parks where birds and butterflies rest during their spring and fall migrations. Long Point has been recognized as a United Nations Biosphere Reserve. This spit of land that was shaped over 5,000 years has four distinct areas: marshlands, a bird observatory, a Carolinian forest, and a provincial park with sand dunes and beaches.
That's very soft. It was gently falling into the pocket here. One of the main functions of the bird observatory is to monitor populations of birds, especially the species that breed in northern Canada in the boreal forests where we can't study them on the breeding grounds. Get it out. This bird is the good fortune not to be Trace. There's well over 200 species recorded in the Long Point area. We certainly do get some rare species, and that's one of the exciting things for the bird watchers here.
14.3 grams.
He's gone.
Well, this is Big Creek National Wildlife Area. It was purchased by the Canadian Wildlife Service from a private hunting club in the early 70s because it was an important migratory stopover area for waterfowl, mostly mallards and widgeons. And in a partnership with Ministry of Natural Resources and Ducks Unlimited Canada and the Conservation Authority, we've constructed a diked area here where there's an opportunity for people to experience and learn about the wetlands, because there's a walking trail. It takes you about 45 minutes to walk around, and you can walk out into the marsh and see the snakes and frogs and turtles as well as the birds. If you want to come and see the wildlife spectacle, the best time is to come in late March, early April. If you want to take in a little more of the subtleties of the marsh in terms of turtles and snakes and frogs and things, then middle of May to June is good. And then in the fall, it's not quite as spectacular usually with the waterfall, but late September, early October can be quite nice a time. You can see the monarch butterflies migrating at that time as well.
Point Pelee, jutting out into Lake Erie, is the most southerly point in Canada. Migrations bring more than 350 different kinds of birds, along with monarch butterflies.
Monarch butterflies stop here on their way to Mexico. They get waylaid here if we have certain weather conditions that keep them at the point. And today is a perfect example of that. This wind coming from the southwest is not going to allow any monarchs to leave Point Pelee today. So they're going to end up very frustratedly waiting here until it's their chance to get across the lake.
The Point Pelee Spit is all that's left of an ancient land bridge formed after the last glacial period. It continues its time-honored role as a way station on the migrating routes of birds and insects.
A monarch butterfly can't land on water. A lot of the little songbirds, the bats, even the hawks don't like to fly over open water. So what they do is they follow the landform down. They also have a lot of food, like a lot of the flowering plants that are out there for the monarchs at this time, the nectar that they eat to gain energy on their migration down to Mexico, and a lot of the insects, mosquitoes and flies and that sort of thing for the songbirds, and of course the hawks that eat the songbirds that are following the insects.
Pelee Island is also perfect for vineyards. which have put it and Niagara on the world's wine map.
And we're sitting inside a barrel, downstairs in our basement, as we call it the tasting room. It just goes to show you that we can reuse them in other ways instead of just throwing them out after we can't use them anymore if they've cracked or if they've had other problems with them. Pelee Island is an old coral reef, so it's limestone based, and there's clay on top. And clay sometimes isn't qualified as being really nice soil, but it does force the vines to dig deep for the nutrients, and that's quite beneficial in developing, as they say in France, a terroir, and that contributes to Pelee Island having a really unique flavor to its wines.
Even more wineries have grown up astride Niagara's wine trail, just one of many attractions in this garden region of Ontario.
You have also man-made attractions like the Journey Behind the Falls, the Great Gorge Adventure, the Aero Car, just lots of things that people can see and do. Probably the most exciting attraction, in my opinion, is the Maid of the Mist. It's been operating since 1846, a scenic boat tour that takes you right into the shoe, as the local people call it. You not only see Niagara, but you feel it, you taste it, and you can literally touch it. You get that close.
Then winter freezes the falls and produces another extraordinary view. At historic Union Station in downtown Toronto, we board Canada's most famous train, the Canadian. From Toronto, it wends its wooded way northwards to the shores of Lake Superior. At Sault Ste. Marie, you can connect to rail excursions into the Agawa Canyon on the Algoma Central Railway. It takes a day to penetrate a wilderness of forest, lakes, and rivers to reach deep into the canyon. In the fall, a 2-hour stopover is long enough for a vigorous climb to a panoramic lookout for some stunning photographs.
Hey, one more time for the Agawa Central. One more time for the Agawa Central. Let's hear it now, folks. Everybody do the la-di-da. Hey, la-di-da.
When the snow flies, so does the snow train. It snakes through a wonderland of frozen lakes, snow-laden trees, and icy waterfalls sculpted by nature. Adventure enthusiasts can use the train to transport their snowmobiles,